Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene, a flash update, May 11, 2026, time in Texas, about 10 a.m. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. And I'd like to say thank you to Dwight P. for extra support of my channel. Some of the things we'll cover: U.S. intel regarding what's going on in Iran, and also some about China. And what is the update about the U.S. citizens back in the U.S. In quarantine for the bioweapon hantavirus? So let's get started. So we have American Airlines picking up U.S. citizens plus one British citizen, we understand, returned to the U.S. So they were picked up in the last few hours from Tenerife and the Canary Islands, owned by Spain. 17 Americans returned to Omaha, Nebraska, to the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Now, this medical center also quarantined Ebola patients during the Obama years. So it's well acquainted and equipped for quarantine. And as I put out on my last video, I believe that this is a juiced up hantavirus bioweapon, most likely put out by the Wuhan lab in China. And I put forth information from Chinese experts that 1 month ago, the CCP announced it had a vaccine for hantavirus, which turns out to be not a vaccine, but a gene therapy. According to the CCP, this new so-called vaccine for hantavirus includes DNA, we do not know from who or what, and mRNA. And then coincidentally, 1 month later, we have this outbreak in South America. And as I've put forth, and from other experts, it's not quite believable that this Andes strain in South America spontaneously, in a natural way, mutated to jump species to species. Much more likely, this is a bioweapon juiced up in a lab in China. And in strong support of that position is the fact that 1 month ago, the CCP announces it has a so-called vaccine for hantavirus. Well, in the last few hours, 17 Americans plus one British citizen returned to a quarantine center in Nebraska. During the course of those hours, we had one American citizen test positive for the hantavirus bioweapon. We have a second American citizen who's undergoing and demonstrating symptoms, but has not yet been tested. We're hearing about other people who were on the Hondias cruise. We have 5 going to France. One of those is tested positive. And we have that the Australia plane to pick up Australian citizens had problems, so the Australian citizens are getting on a plane to the Netherlands. So far, out of all of the passengers on the Hondias, we've had 9 tests positive for the hantavirus bioweapon, and 3 have died. 2, a husband and wife from the Netherlands, and a German citizen. So that's Spain is also picking up many people and quarantining them in a military base in Spain. So that's going on with regard to the bioweapon hantavirus. And we have this from U.S. Intel. So the U.S. military has made visible to the world and Iran, going around the Strait of Gibraltar and into the Mediterranean Sea, a U.S. nuclear sub. The USS Alaska, SS Beene 732. And it's being put forth that a nation only makes visible its nuclear subs to put forth a distinct message to any nation coming against the U.S. We believe this is intended for Iran and possibly for China. From U.S. Intel, we've been seeing Ukraine using Baltic states airspace to go from Ukraine around Europe, these European nations, and then hitting inside Russia, Leningrad. Now it turns out NATO negotiated a deal between Ukraine and the Baltic states of Estonia and Latvia to lease Estonia and Latvia airspace to allow Ukraine to use the European airspace to hit Russia, which of course brings Estonia and Latvia directly into conflict with Russia. And we're seeing Russian drones now going into Estonia and Latvia. Well, plainly, NATO, Estonia, and Latvia have now demonstrated to Russia and to the world that they have become part of the conflict. And we have this. So we have that Latvia's airspace, they closed a section of their airspace that's now reserved for Ukraine to hit Russia. It'll be closed from February to December of 2026. And that Estonia has closed a section of their airspace, also to be used by Ukraine to hit Russia, from March to December of 2026. We also have today the Prime Minister of Latvia resigning. We do not know if it's linked to this NATO deal with Ukraine. And we have this, the airspace leasing of Estonia and Latvia to Ukraine, for Ukraine to use to hit Russia, was negotiated by NATO. So that's going on. And we have this. I have a Patriot subscriber who says, don't you find it odd that there's only been one video out of the cruise ship Hondius while they have hundreds of people on board? Well, 153, I believe. Yes, I would say that's odd. And my Patriot subscriber says, this looks like it's something being staged, aka Fauci. Yeah, we saw the propaganda that was put out by Fauci during the bioweapon COVID in the U.S. But yes, that's an astute observation on the part of my Patriot subscriber. And my Patriot subscriber says, you know, in Iran, their holy book, their Bible, the Quran, says it's okay to lie to people who are non-Muslim. Yeah, it also says it's okay to lie, cheat, and steal, and kill. Yep, that's going on. And we have a Patriot subscriber who says what's going on with that ship, Hondius, and it appears there's no evidence being put forth with regard to details about the bioweapon hantavirus. We have from TCTV, yesterday, President Trump rejected the latest Iran proposal. And we have that the U.S. Is telling Iran no to its latest proposal via Pakistan. U.S. rejects Iran's proposal. Yeah, and of course, Iran came out and said they reject the U.S. proposal. And we have this. So some of the parts of the Iran proposal included Iran to the U.S. immediately withdraw the U.S. military, pay Iran reparations, give Iran control of the Strait of Hormuz, release all frozen Iranian money. President Trump said no. And we have this from U.S. Intel. So, we have Iran to President Trump. Also, Iran said in their proposal they want the U.S. to surrender. And we have this. This was being put forth publicly by Iran's security spokesperson, Ibrahim Rizhal, that the U.S. must get used to a new world order where Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. So, a new regional order where Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz. We have this allegedly coming out via back channels. And we have this, Dialogue Works interviewed Larry Johnson, former CIA, this morning. President Trump preps to leave for his China trip this week. And it's believed he either has to leave late tonight or early in the morning. It's like a 16-hour flight, which would be late on the 11th or early on May 12th, to arrive in China May 13 and 14. Then he will come home on May 15. Now, it's being put forth, we saw last week, the U.S. military taking out and down 3 Iranian tankers who tried to run the blockade. We did not see a response by Iran. It's being put forth that it's believed China communicated with Iran for Iran not to respond to the U.S. military. So we see both sides, the U.S. and China, doing a setup for a productive meeting this week between President Trump and President Xi. Because we also know last week, then Iran seized 1 or 2 Chinese tankers. So it appears question marks about what's going on between then Iran and China. So that's going on. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, world peace and health. I love you, and I'll see you soon.